Joining me now, I've got Heidi, who is, what's your job title actually?
It's Head of Audience and Arts Development. It's kind of a weird title because it sort of encompasses what I do, but it's more broader and less specific in a kind of weird roundabout way. So essentially my role encompasses marketing, ticketing and programming, but I also work within a team where I have two amazing coordinators who deal with marketing and ticketing themselves. So it's my central focus is programming and a curatorial kind of lens, and then I get to work alongside the marketing and ticketing team because essentially all of those three things feed in together.
So you're sort of step one of the process at Frankston Arts Centre.
In a way, yes. Yeah.
So it all comes back to you. What's going to be hitting the stage?
Indeed. In a way, yes. It's kind of the way I describe it to people is there's sort of two streams. There's two ways that things can happen at Frankston Arts Centre on the stage. So it will be either someone comes to us to hire the venue, and that will be a presenter, a producer, a performer who is going in off their own bat, and they're like, I'm going to pay and hire the venue, come in, present my show. I'm going to grab all that lovely ticket money and I'm going to head off into the sunset and go to the next venue. Or you're going to come through our curatorial season of work, which is what I'm in charge of.
Sure.
So I work really closely alongside the commercial hire team, and as do all of our different arms, I guess, within marketing and ticketing as well. And we put everything together and it happens. So, yeah, but essentially the curatorial arm is sort of where my focus is.
So how does that work, like on a practical level? Like there's shows obviously being created by production companies or whatever, and then they are going out to present that to you to be like, we want to perform it at Frankston Arts Centre?
Yeah, so it's a sort of weird self-feeding kind of beast in a way, because what happens is that you very much have to be a consistently and continually developing relationships, and it's about seeing lots of work, it's about being in lots of places where things happen and having conversations with people. But the way I like to explain it to somebody who might not know anything about how it works is that it's like a cycle, it's like a life cycle. So what will happen is that I might see a show, and that presenter will decide they want to take that work on tour. They've done maybe a season at a theatre company, and they go, actually, I want to take this work on tour. It was really popular. So they'll reach out to a whole heap of venues and say, hey, we want to come to you, and they'll build a tour. That process will quite often take anywhere from, it could take 6 months, but it might take anywhere up to 3 years. So usually what's happening is we will launch a season, and then when we are launching that season, I've already kind of moved on and I'm already about another year ahead. So just the logistic planning of it for an artist to be able to take their work around Australia, or it could be an international work, so sometimes it's even more involved. It takes time, and there's funding bodies that can kind of help get works up. So they might be working on a kind of cycle of sort of a 2 or 3 year development to make something happen. But for my role, what I'm trying to do is I will be going to see lots of things, and also going to a lot of arts markets. So just like a food market or a grocery, fruit and veg farmers market, they have arts markets. So what will happen is you'll go to a venue, you'll be there for a few days, you will see sometimes 7-10 minute excerpts of a whole range of different works, and then you get thrust into a room with lots of people who come up to you and be like, our show is the best one, you should buy it. And then you start building relationships and discussing, and you can kind of go, yep, that show's for us. No, that's not for us. And it has to kind of then descend beyond personal taste as well.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's, I think, kind of that's the fun part for me, because I'm never really looking at shows with my personal sort of lens on.
Sure.
Of course, there's things that I go see which I go, oh, I love this. Like this is, my jam, absolutely. And more often than not, most of the works I can see where I go, I love them and they're the works that I bring here. Whilst they might be for me as a typical audience member, I invariably quite often fall in love with them and go, I can see, because I see the audience enjoyment in them. And that's like the moment. And it was so funny. I went and saw a work the other day, and it was a work that we brought here a year ago, and seeing it in a different venue where I didn't have the responsibility of that audience in my sort of hands. I spent the first 5 minutes watching everybody else's reaction, and I was like, actually I can just enjoy it now. Yeah. And I just sort of sat back and I was like, this is great. This is what the audience gets to do. So that was really fun. And it was a lovely moment to remind myself of why it's so important to have the audience as kind of our first thought here, is to go, who are the people coming to Frankston Arts Centre? What do they want? What do they need? What things have they not seen that might be something really exciting for them? And that's kind of that whole balance that we try to do in that curation as well.
So does a lot of that come into it? Are you looking at all the different categories and making sure that you're doing a wide array of, say it's music, say there's, kids shows,
absolutely.
There might be comedy or whatever. That's all coming into it?
Indeed, because we have, as a centre, there's not many what we call a dark night here, which is essentially where the venue isn't open with something happening. So we offer so much in terms of the range of different hirers who come through our venue and present shows already. So I almost see the curatorial season as an opportunity to supplement what we're already doing. So I go, great, we have, through our commercial hires, we quite often get the best of stand-up comedy, of live music, musical theatre, a range of different forms and genres. So with the curatorial season, I can go, right, what are we not getting that is something that only I, with our season might be able to bring here? So that's when we start to go, what's missing, that little puzzle piece of what's missing, but also making sure that we're really thinking about that there is something almost for everybody, and that kind of idea of going, there needs to be something for our families. There needs to be something for that real theatre lover who loves seeing a really great drama piece. There needs to be some really beautiful contemporary dance or movement. We've developed a reputation, I think, for really amazing circus work. So that's something I'm really proud of here. So I really like to make sure that there's one or two circus works in every season. And I think circus is also a really lovely gateway for a whole family to come and enjoy something together, because traditionally it's non-verbal. It's really easily accessible, and quite often it's an hour. It's that nice little thing where you can go, it could be parents plus a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're both going to get something out of it. So I think that's always a really, it's a great kind of family, sort of frame that you can look at it with. So
it's such an interesting job. I wonder when Heidi, you're going out and about and looking at all these shows, you mentioned it before that you're looking at audience reactions. Is that a big part of it for you, to see the success of a show? Yeah,
I think so. There's sort of two parts to it in a way. I kind of go, what are the really great things that get that instant audience reaction and have a really great kind of rapport or recognition with an audience, whether it's through the fact that it's a name, it might be the people who are in the show or the presenters of the show, where you can automatically go, oh, that's going to be high quality and that's going to be something that is really appealing straight away. But there's also a really strong importance too in that audience development thing to go, what are the new and upcoming artists and how can we as an organisation support those? Because venues across the country play such an important part in bringing up the new talent and allowing space for new work to develop and to be shared with a new audience, because theatre is my background, and I've had to kind of school myself, I think, a little bit on some different genres which weren't quite, I didn't know as much about, but certainly thinking of it with a theatre lens, the landscape is changing, and kind of the work that people are really connecting with, I think, is evolving. There's always space for classics, I think. I think people really love seeing a really well done, be it Shakespeare, kind of, that real kind of rigorous old school work. But there's also then a really sort of strong contemporary theatre world that's emerging, I think, and keeping ahead of that. And how do we kind of bring our audience into that? Because the challenge sometimes can be too is that you bring a work that is really new and contemporary and maybe quite different, and getting that audience on board, and sometimes what will happen will be that we will present something and people will come to it and go, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I really, really enjoyed it. And that's the gold star moment for us, where we go, cool, yes, we've got you now, we've got you, and you're going to come back. And that's really lovely.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm really interested because, I suppose this is why you span a couple of departments. In the scheduling of stuff, I mean, that must play a massive part, that you have, certain shows at certain times. And if you're out looking at market, what's around, you'd be like, oh, we couldn't possibly fit that in that season. Does that play a part in it too?
Yeah, for sure. So when we're planning out the curatorial season, the season for the year, we're very much looking at timing. That's tricky because sometimes things are on tour at a certain time of the year, and you sort of have to go, we'd really love that, but it's not going to quite work. And I've said no to works before, which has been really hard. And you go, I know it would do really well, but we've already got 2 things on that month, plus we've got something happening, so frequently in the centre. So we have to consider all of those pieces of the puzzle, and we have to have really great kind of communications within our team to be able to go, we have this sort of global calendar essentially, which is our venue calendar, and that is a much trusted kind of resource, but it's also the people who are there going, but this came 6 months ago and this is a bit similar, and that can sometimes be helpful because you go, actually that audience really loved this, and I think that this audience will really love that too. So that complementary kind of nature of programming is really important, but absolutely that balance is really a key to success. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. And I think that's case in point everywhere. I think
the nature of the job.
Yeah, and sometimes sort of testament to, I think, the success of our centre is that we are so busy. And it's in a current climate for the arts where it is a challenging environment, and things are changing and evolving very quickly, to sort of be continually going, we're putting things out there, we're having things on stage. It's an amazing thing, and it's something we're really proud of.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Yeah.
So do you naturally become part of a run? So meaning if something's touring around, are you sort of like, they're going off to that? And so do you talk to all those different venues too?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have great relationships with neighbouring venues. We have a really great network in Victoria, particularly called VAPAC, which is the Victorian Association of Performing Arts Centres. So pretty much every performing arts centre in Victoria is a member of that network. So we have a really great kind of connection to be able to go, this came to us, is that coming to you? Natural touring sort of itineraries appear. Interestingly, quite often a lot of our season shows, if they are on a tour, come to us from Tasmania, where first point of call post Theatre Royal. And then it will be off to maybe Bunjil Place, maybe out to the Round in Whitehorse, or could even be in City of Whitehorse, or it could be out to Geelong. And maybe a sort of Arts Centre Melbourne stop in between. So yeah, it's natural kind of touring itineraries start to appear, and particularly with presenters that we work with frequently. They get used to kind of working out their little itinerary and it works for them. And we have great supporters and sponsors who then come on board and support that by offering accommodation and all of those amazing things. So
that is so interesting. I'm sitting here going, oh, what else? Like, it's such an integral part of the Frankston Arts Centre. What is on is really, going to absolutely make the centre successful.
Absolutely.
What's one of the shows that you've brought on that you've been most proud of?
Oh gosh,
Putting on
choosing.
The spot.
Yeah, Sophie's choice, choosing my favourite child. I think that there's sometimes works like what I was talking about before, where I know that it's a smaller work, or I know that it might be a more contemporary or challenging work. We did a work in our season in 2025, which was called Breaking the Castle. It was a work made by a Queensland theatre maker who I knew from a long time ago, and it's a really personal story for Pete about his own kind of struggle with addiction. And we essentially ended up selling out 2 nights in Cube, our 200-seat venue, and I would put good money on that not one audience member didn't walk away from that with really amazing things to say. A really intimate and powerful piece of theatre, one-person show, which is always such a masterclass for an audience to watch one person go through kind of not only just a performance, but for this particular work, it's such an emotional kind of undertaking. He also played, I think, maybe it was something like 15 or so different characters, and the flip and the switch between all the characters. So you're watching the skill of an actor as well, which is so enjoyable. I think that was one work I can kind of pull out of the many in my brain.
Yes.
That is something I'm really proud of. So, yeah.
And have you got anything coming up that you're pumped for?
I think we have a really exciting season ahead. I think it's a really lovely mix of work. There's some works which I think will be quite some fond favourites for our audience. We have Bell Shakespeare returning, which is really exciting as a kind of national leading Shakespeare company. We haven't had them in the venue for a number of years, so it's been lovely to get back on their tour and welcome them back. We have this really interesting work called POV, which is a cinematic theatre piece, which is essentially a young person's point of view of watching their parents go through a sort of a mental health journey. And the whole piece is actually the young person is the only scripted role on stage. Both of the performers get their script the day before and they work off a script on stage. So it's kind of like a bit of a mix of improvisation, but it's a surprise for just as much for the audience as it is for the actors.
Does it change?
Yeah. The script stays the same, but the actors move with different performances. So I saw it as part of Rising, Melbourne Festival in 2025, and I saw 2 actors do it, and then the next day 2 different actors do it. So there's this really amazing, I can never remember their name, scriptwriter who did a play called White Rabbit, Red Rabbit, and it's a similar concept. So it's a new actor every night doing a script that they'd never read, and they perform it that night for the audience, and it's this really amazing experience to watch. So this young person is on stage and they are not only coaching the actors through this script, which is really powerful and quite confronting because it's a parent who has bipolar. And so this young person is navigating the world and they're understanding. They also have a video camera. So we're seeing elements projected up onto screens on the stage. And it's really beautiful because you're seeing a young person being empowered and being the agent of change in a situation where quite often they wouldn't be the most important person on that stage. But in that moment, in that time, the writer has given them that power, which is like so wonderful. So yeah, it's very exciting. So we're talking with the producers in a couple of weeks actually about who the actors will be for that show. So I'm really excited to talk to them, and hopefully we can bring a couple of really amazing actors in. I'd really love to get a local actor as well as maybe an actor who's done a lot of, who has probably a bit more experience. But it'd be lovely and a really great opportunity for a local actor to kind of get that experience too.
That would be quite terrifying as the actors coming in a bit blind.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's actors who I've spoken to who've done it. I actually ran into, so the night I saw it, Mish Gregor, who's a kind of comedian / actor, she did it the night I saw it, and I ran into her at an event, and I was saying to her how moved I was by it and that we're bringing it here to Frankston, and they were talking about how it is terrifying but really enjoyable as an actor, because quite often you're spending a lot of time doing a work where you do a rehearsal period and then you get it, you go in and you do your tech and you do your preview and then you do the show and you're there for 3 weeks and then you move on. And she was saying that it's just a really nice experience to be able to have something new and to be responding to not only the young person on stage who's sort of prompting them, but the audience as well. And yeah.
Oh, that sounds so interesting.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a different one for for this year, which is really exciting. So, but there's a really great mix. We've got Circa coming back, who are one of our leading circus companies in Australia, with a family show called Wolfgang and the Stars. So that's joyous, and it's literally just won a Sydney Theatre Award, which is very exciting. So we can go award-winning on the marketing content, which is great. So yeah, there's a really lovely mix of stuff. So
well, Heidi, you do such a great job. The Frankston Arts Centre is very lucky to have you and your team.
Thank you.
Curating these amazing shows for everyone in the community
Indeed.
to enjoy. So thank you so much for coming here, having a chat with me.
No problem. Happy to.